Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Grand Island Public Library's virtual Victorian Tea Party in honor of Edith Abbott, our library's namesake. This year, we are celebrating Edith Abbott's 145th birthday with our tea party. Today, we have Sandra here from the Stir Museum to teach you about etiquette and Victorian manners and place settings.
Hello, young ladies. My name is Mrs. Botker, and I'm here to share a little bit of time with you today with Victorian, long time ago, manners about eating at the table. We all eat at the table today, but sometimes we have forgotten manners. Manners never go out of style. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. I'm going to show you how the table is set and how we eat. Now, back a ways, quite a ways, when ladies were adorned like I am, they would be invited to their neighbors, good friends, for tea in the afternoon. Sometimes it was just maybe iced tea, although ice was not as easily obtained, but they wanted to get together because a very important lady, the Duchess of Bedford, was tired of being home by herself all afternoon because her husband had gone to work. And they'd had a small breakfast, but they didn't have their big meal, their high tea, until 8 o'clock at night, and that was a long time. And it meant she would have to do stitchery or read her books, and she got very weary of that, and she needed conversation with friends. And so these ladies would ask each other over to their homes for tea and probably some sweets, some good things, as opposed to a full meal. It was not that. If I were invited, this is the way I would dress to go there. I would put on my Sunday best, or at least something that was very appropriate. I would wear a hat, and I would always wear gloves. I would also carry with me a calling card, and that calling card has my name on it, and when I come to the home, just as when you would come to a home, and you were greeted at the door by either the hostess or maybe one of her staff, they would ask you for your calling card, and there would be a small table with a tray on it sometimes where you could lay that calling card down. So the hostess later on could see exactly who had been at her home for afternoon tea. I'm going to take these things off now because I'm going to become the hostess, and you're going to become my guests. So as you approach my home, and you wouldn't all come at the same time, of course, I would have a staff member or myself greet you at the door and probably take you to the parlor or another room off of the main room. And we would sit there and exchange information. In today's world, that's called gossiping, but we called it exchanging information. And when everyone was there, that had been invited, then the hostess would invite them to come into the dining area. But before that happened, the staff had to set up the table for us to have small sandwiches, some sweets of some sort, and it could be anything along that line. So I'm going to show you how the staff would set each place setting, and this is what you can practice doing every day. I'm going to need my plate, and it wasn't a large plate, and I'm going to take the knife with the cutting edge, and it's going to face the plate so that the cutting edge is to the side of the plate. I'm going to take the fork, and I'm going to put it on the other side. Again, not too far from the edge, and that leaves the spoon with the knife. Now, how do I remember that? Right is spelled R-I-G-H-T, and knife is spelled K-N-I-F-E, 5 letters. So that knife belongs on the right of the plate. Spoon, S-P-O-O-N, 5 letters. It belongs on the right side of the plate. Fork, F-O-R-K, 4 letters, but it's on the left, L-E-F-T. So that's how I can remember when I'm setting my place where the tableware is going to go. Now we have a napkin, and the napkin can either go underneath the fork, or it can go on the left side of the fork. It just depends on what the hostess has done. And we have a goblet or a glass for our water, which is at the top of the knife. I'm going to put my fork on top of my napkin. The napkin lays so that this open edge is available to me when I'm ready to take it away. I'll move my fork off of it, and I can pull it up and place it. It'll open up and come onto my lap. I have my wonderful young ladies that have come to my home for afternoon tea, and so I've ushered them in. You stand behind your chair, you take up a place around the table, and you wait for the hostess, who would be at the head of the table, until she comes in and either one of her staff or she herself pulls her chair out and she sits. Then you may sit. You do not sit before that. And how do you get into that chair? You actually get in on the right side, and you can put your little fanny down first and move your legs around until your feet are flat on the floor. Now remember, we have gloves on. So now is the time to pull off your gloves. If you have a hat on, you can leave the hat on. But your gloves are off. Our napkin, if the hostess has pulled her napkin, we may pull our napkin and place it on our lap. So we have the napkin and the gloves on our lap. And our hands, because we don't ever put elbows on tables. We keep our hands down. Now I'm going to remove myself from the chair, which if I had to do this and the hostess was there, I would have to ask permission to leave the table, and I would push back a little, and then I would leave on the left side of my chair. Now, the hostess is the one to watch, and the hostess is going to have been brought from the staff some of the goodies that we're going to have for our afternoon tea. And the first would probably be sandwiches of some sort. The hostess would take the tong, not my hands, and I would take one of the sandwiches and place it on my plate. And then I'd place the tongs and I would hand it to the person on my left. And then that person would take off what they want and hand it to the person on their left. And it would go all the way around the table. If there's some of the sandwiches left, if the hostess wants to, she could just leave the sandwiches on the table. Or if it's empty, she might give it to a staff member, and they might go back into the kitchen and make up more sandwiches in case someone wants a second one. And shortly after that, the staff member brings these very nice looking sweets, and again, using a tong, take one off, hand it to the person on the left, all the way around the table until it comes back. And again, it can either be left on the table, or if the hostess wants it to, or it can be taken off for more, if anyone wants any more. Any talking that takes place at the table is done in a very soft voice. And if you need to ask a question of the hostess, you try to get her attention and softly ask the question if it's something appropriate. So now let's imagine that we have taken our sandwich and our sweet, and we have a little water, which we do not wash our food down with water, but after you've swallowed, then you can take a little sip of water. Now let's say that I have my napkin in my lap along with my gloves, and I've eaten everything and I'm finished. I don't want seconds. So in order for the staff to know when you're finished, you take the tableware and you put it across your plate, and we call that, if you look at the plate as a clock. This is just about where the 4 would be on the clock. So we call this the 4 o'clock position. If you have put your tableware that way, the staff knows that they are going to come and pick all of this up. We have nothing there then, it's gone. We might ask for more water, or in this case, or you could ask for tea if we were going to have tea. You might pull your glass down so it's a little bit closer. If the hostess has anything more to say to us, which she might, well, saying what a nice afternoon it's been. And if she gets up then and says, let's retire or let's go to the other room to exchange some information, again, which is gossip, or just enjoy each other's company. Now we still have this napkin and those gloves in our lap. So we take the napkin and we try to fold it up as best we can, and we lay that back on the table. We don't crumple it up, it's just like that. Our gloves can stay in our hands because we're going into another room, not outside. You're going to leave, after the hostess has gotten up, you're going to leave your chair on the left. Sometimes you have to wait for the person next to you first if you're a little bit crowded. And you may leave. And you've had a wonderful, wonderful day, afternoon, and you've helped the hostess bide her time and have some enjoyable company with her neighbors and friends. So, ladies, some of the things I talked about seem a little bit strange, but manners have never gone out of not using them. Some of these things maybe not so much anymore, but elbows on the table, you should never have elbows on the table. Reaching across the table, you should not. You should ask permission to do that. Always giving respect to the adult that's at your table. They may not necessarily be at the head, but respect them. Ask them to hand you something or pass something to you. And so if you have any more questions about this tea and some of the manners that went along with this tea, you can certainly contact the library or Stewart Museum, because that's where I'm from. So thank you very much, young ladies. It's been a wonderful, just short time to share some things with you.
I have Miss Leanne here helping me today. She's going to show us a Victorian fan craft and the language of Victorian flowers.
I'm so glad to be here today, and this is one of my favorite things to do. Best time of year, it's Edith Abbott's birthday. And when she was about your age, which would be 3rd and 4th grade, these are the types of clothes that she wore and the types of things that she did. She didn't have TVs and of course, devices, but they had their own way of communicating. And one of the reasons that they had so many communications is that, they were dressed very warm. And it's great in the wintertime, but in the summertime, it's pretty hot. And those girls had to sit straight and they had to dress proper. And it was called the Victorian era. And so we are going to make a fan this morning that's going to be some of the language. And in your little sack that you have, there's a pastel colored construction paper with a doily on it. And if you will just take your ends of your paper and accordion fold it back and forth. Take your time and relax, and it just works into a sweet little fan for you. You kind of get the idea of what that is doing, and then when you have accordion folded it all the way, then you put a stapler on it, and sometimes you can put a little ribbon on it too to fancy it up a little bit. So while you're enjoying that, I will tell you some of the things that they used this fan for to communicate. And my goodness, you had to really pay attention to what signal you were giving with your fan, or you could give the wrong one. So the fan etiquette, see, they would be in social places, and they a lot of times couldn't really talk to each other, so they just kind of indicated what their feelings were. But a fan placed near the heart means you have won my love. A closed fan touching your right eye, when may I be allowed to see you? And if you opened your fan to 4 slots, it would say 4 o'clock. A threatening move with the fan closed means don't use bad judgment. And a half opened fan pressed to the lips, oh dear, you can kiss me. Hands clasped together, holding an open fan, and this is one of my favorites, is forgive me. You know, we need to be forgiven several times during the day. And what a wonderful way to do that. Covering the left ear with an open fan, do not portray our secret. Don't tell our secret. And I don't know what the secret is, but hiding the eyes behind an open fan, I love you. And shutting a fan fully and opening it slowly again means I promise to marry you. Wow. Drawing the fan across your eyes, oh, I'm sorry. Touching a finger to the lip of the fan, tip of the fan, I wish to speak to you. Letting the fan rest on the right cheek is yes. And on the left cheek, it's no. Opening and closing the fan several times, you're cruel. Dropping the fan, we will be friends. Fanning slowly, I'm married. Fanning faster, I'm engaged. Putting the fan handle to the lips. Here we go, kiss me again. Opening a fan wide, wait for me. Placing the fan behind the head, do not forget me. And then putting a little finger up says, goodbye. Fan in right in front of the face, follow me. And a fan held over the left ear, oh dear, I wish to get rid of you. Drawing the fan across your forehead, you have changed. And twirling the fan in the left hand says, we are being watched. I don't know what they're doing, but you're being watched. And twirling it in the right hand says, I love another. Carrying the open fan in the right hand means you're too willing, whatever that is. And carrying an open fan in the left hand says, come and talk to me. So there's pretty big difference in the right hand and the left hand there. And drawing the fan through the hand is, I hate you, and I don't like that word. Drawing the fan across the cheek, I love you. And presenting the fan shut is, do you love me? So they had a whole range of ways that they could communicate with us. It was like their texting device, but you really had to pay attention to what the signals meant, or you could get a whole different ballgame going here. You know, most places in the Victorian era had flowers that grew in the back. they didn't have a lot of florists that they could go to buy flowers. So they had their flower gardens, and it also kept the house looking nice too. But the flowers had meanings. And this is one of my favorites. This is the apple blossom, and it represents hope. And I suppose you could give this to somebody who you're visiting that needed some hope. Or maybe you needed some hope and you just wanted to put it in your house. So I love that. Daisy, and that was my grandmother's name, means cheerfulness. And daisies always go well with their white color and yellow center. They match everything. Carnations is remembrance. We would have a lot of things to remember, maybe a high school reunion or somebody's birthday or remembering their life. And the yellow rose is enthusiasm, but it also means trust. Probably one of the most important things in our life is trust. Here's a chrysanthemum. Have you ever watched the Rose Bowl parade? And they always talk about chrysanthemums, and this is it. And it's truth and sharing. And the reason that they had these flowers was because they would go to each other's houses a lot of the time and bring presents like a flower. And those flowers had those meanings, and it was just part of their tradition. A pink rose, of course, would mean love. A white rose would mean purity, and that stands to reason. And a geranium is comfort, and I love geraniums, and they bring people a lot of comfort. We do have a pansy, and that's thoughtfulness, lovely colors, and zinnias, thoughts of friendship. Sometimes if the giver gave the bouquet right side up, it would be good news. So right away you would get a clue what's going on. And here's some of the meanings. The apple blossom is hope. Daisies are cheerfulness. Carnations is remembrance. Chrysanthemum is truth and sharing. Geraniums are comfort. Pansies, thoughtfulness. Pink rose, love. Violet, modesty. White rose, purity. Yellow rose, truth and enthusiasm. And zinnias, thoughts of friendliness. So I hope you've enjoyed the flower presentation for the Victorian Tea Party and the things that happened, some of the things that happened while Edith Abbott was your age growing up. Thank you.
The next activity you'll want to pull out of your tea party bag is calling cards and etiquette of paying calls. So you have this sheet that explains what calling cards are, and you should have 2 calling cards like this in your bag. So calling cards, they could also be called visiting cards. They were just a small paper card that had someone's name printed on them, almost like a business card, but they were for social purposes instead of business. So if you wanted to be friends with someone in the 19th century, what you would do is take your calling card and either hand it to them when you met them so that they could remember who you were, or you could call on them at their house and you would leave your card there. They would either decide if they wanted to see you right then, or if they said they weren't at home, then that might mean that you've been rejected and they don't want to be friends. So with these calling cards, you can practice, just write your name on them. And if you have a grown-up or siblings participating with you today, you can hand them your calling cards. You can exchange them. And you see this silver tray that I have here. Most Victorian families would have some kind of a tray like this in their entryway of their house. So if someone came by with their calling card and wanted to leave it there, it would be placed in that tray with the more impressive names on top, so the more important or highly ranking people in the community. So in your bag you should have this hat. It's made of a paper plate and a paper bowl that we've already glued together for you. And you should have a separate little paper sack. In there you will have a round piece of tulle, a couple of flowers, and a piece of ribbon to decorate your hat. So you can glue these on wherever you want. A hot glue gun usually works the best for this, but if you don't have that, some tacky glue should work, or you can even staple or tape things on. And you can also add any other decorations you have at home if you want to color or paint on your hat, or if you have some sequins or jewels that you want to stick on, that would be fun too. But just for the basic hat, I'm going to take my tulle and kind of scrunch it up so it makes a pretty little poof. And I'm just going to glue it in one spot on my hat. And if you are using hot glue, make sure you get a grown-up to help. It's really easy to burn your fingers. So be very careful if you're using hot glue. Next, I'm gonna glue my ribbon on, and I think I'm just gonna let it hang kind of loose. So I'm just gonna kind of make a little loop and glue the loop on top of my tulle here. And the last thing to put on is my flowers. So I'm just gonna hot glue those on top of my ribbon. And there you have a fancy tea party hat to wear that's decorated with your flowers. So that will add a nice little touch to your fancy tea party outfit. One of the crafts that you'll find in your tea party bag is this felt cameo necklace. We cut these out here at the library on our laser cutter in the makerspace. So you have two pieces here, a background and the fancy filigree part of the necklace. And these are cut out of felt, so you can glue them together, but you don't necessarily have to because felt likes to stick together. So you maybe can just get away with leaving it like that. And you'll get a couple of options for the silhouette to put in your cameo necklace. I have a gentleman and a cat here. So you can just stick that in the middle. And you can actually interchange those if you don't glue it down. You could change them out if you want a different look. You'll have a piece of ribbon that you can tie through the hole at the top of your necklace. I like to fold it in half and make a loop like this. And then tie a knot at the top so you can wear it. You have a very simple Victorian cameo necklace. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you had fun.